A General Dictionary of the English Language. By Samuel Johnson. Master of Arts.
First published in 1755, in 2 volumes.
Letter A. From abandon, to abatement. To abandon. Verb active. French, abandonner. Derived, according to Menage, from the Italian abbandonar,
which signifies to forsake his colors.
Bandum, vexillum, deserire.
Pusquier thinks it, a coalition of abandonner, to give up to a proscription. In which sense we, at this day, mention the ban of the empire.
Ban, in our own old dialect, signifies a curse. And to abandon, if considered as compounded, between French and Saxon is exactly equivalent to dirus devivere. 1. To give up, resign, or quit. Often followed by the particle to.
The passive gods, behold the Greeks defile their temples, and abandon to the spoil their own abodes, we feeble few, conspire
to save a sinking town, involved in fire. John Dryden, Aeneid. 2. To desert. The prince is using the passions of fearing evil,
and desiring to escape, only to serve the rule of virtue.
Not to abandon oneself, leapt to a rib of the ship. Sir Philip Sidney, Book 2. Then being alone,
left and abandoned of his velvet friends.
It is right, quoth he, thus misery doth part. The flux of company.
William Shakespeare, As You Like It. What fate a wretched fugitive attends, scorned by my foes, abandoned by my friends.
John Dryden, Aeneid, 2. 3. To forsake, generally with a tendency to an ill sense.
When he in presence came to Guyon first, he boldly spake, Sir Knight, if knight thou be, abandon this forestalled place at erst. For fear of further harm, I counsel thee.
Edmund Spenser's Faerie Queene, Book 2, Canto 4, stanza 39. But to the parting goddess, thus she prayed, propitious still be present to my aid, nor quite abandon your once favored maid.
John Dryden, Fables.
To abandon over. Verb active. A form of writing not usual, perhaps not exact. To give up to resign.
Look on me, as a man abandoned over
to an eternal lethargy of love.
To pull, and pinch, and wound me, cannot cure, and but disturb the quiet of my death. John Dryden, The Spanish Friar.
Abandoned. Participle adjective. 1. Given up.
If she be so abandoned to her sorrow, as it is spoke, she never will admit me. William Shakespeare, Twelfth Night. Who is he, so abandoned to sottish credulity, as to think, upon that principle, that a clod of earth in a sack may ever, by eternal shaking, receive the fabric of man's body?
Richard Bentley, Sermons.
Must he, whose altars, on the Phrygian shore, with frequent rites, and pure avowed, thy power,
be doomed, the worst of human ills to prove, unblessed, abandoned, to the wrath of Jove. Alexander Pope's The Odyssey, Book 1, line 80. 2. Forsaken, deserted. 3. Corrupted in the highest degree.
In this sense, it is a contraction of a longer form, abandoned, given up, to wickedness.
Abandoning.
A verbal noun, from abandon.
Desertion, forsaking. He hoped his past meritorious actions might outweigh his present.
Abandoning the thought of future action.
Clarend, Book 8. Abandonment. Noun substantive. Abandonment, French. 1. The act of abandoning. 2. The state of being abandoned. Dictionary. Abonition. Noun substantive. Latin, ab initio. A banishment for 1 or 2 years. Among the ancients, for manslaughter. Dictionary. Abarsi, Noun substantive. Insatiableness. Dictionary. To obear. Verb active. Albanian, Saxon.
To make bare, uncover, or disclose.
Dictionary. Abarticulation. Noun substantive. From and articulus, a joint Latin. A good and apt construction of the bones, by which they move strongly and easily.
Or that species of articulation that has manifest motion.
Dictionary. To abase. Verb active. French, abaser. From the Latin. Basis, or bassus.
A barbarous word signifying low, base.
To cast down, to depress, to bring low.
Almost, always in a figurative and personal sense.
Happy shepherd, with thanks to the gods.
Still think to be thankful, that to thy advancement. Their wisdoms have thee abased.
Sir Philip Sidney, Book 1. With unresisted might the monarch reigns. He levels mountains, and he raises plains. And not regarding difference of degree.
Abased your daughter, and exalted me. John Dryden, Fables.
Behold, everyone that is proud, and abase him. The Holy Bible, Book of Job, chapter 40, verse 11.
If the mind be curbed, and humbled too much in children. If their spirits be abased, and broken much, by too strict an hand, over them.
They lose all their vigor and industry. And are in a worse state than the former. John Locke, on Education, section 46. Abased. Adjective. With heralds. Is a term used of the wings of eagles. When the top looks downwards towards the point of the shield. Or when the wings are shut. The natural way of bearing them being spread with the top pointing to the chief of the angle. Nathan Bailey, Chambers. Abasement. Noun substantive. The state of being brought low. The act of bringing low. Depression. There is an abasement because of glory. And there is that lifteth up his head from a low estate. The Holy Bible, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 20, verse 11. To abash. Verb active. See bashful. To put into confusion, to make ashamed. It generally implies a sudden impression of shame. They heard, and were abashed, and up they sprung. Upon the wing. John Milton's Paradise Lost, Book 1, line 331. This heard, the imperious queen, sat mute with fear. Nor further durst incense the gloomy thunderer. Silence was in the court, at this rebuke. Nor could the gods abashed sustain their sovereign's look. John Dryden's Fables. The passive admits the particulate, sometimes of, before the casual noun. In no wise speak against the truth, but be abashed of the error of thy ignorance. The Holy Bible, Ecclesiasticus, chapter 4, verse 25. I said unto her, from whence is this kid? Is it not stolen? Render it to the owners, for it is not lawful to eat anything that is stolen. But she replied upon me, it was given for a gift, more than the wages. However, I did not believe her, but bade her render it to the owners. And I was abashed at her. The Holy Bible, Book of Tobit, chapter 2, verses 13, 14. The little cupids hovering round. As pictures prove, with garlands crowned. Abashed at what they saw and heard. Flew off, nor ever more appeared. Jonathan Swift's Miscellanies. To abate. Verb active. From the French abattre. To beat down. 1. To lessen, to diminish. Who can tell whether the divine wisdom, to abate the glory of those kings, did not reserve this work to be done by a queen, that it might appear to be his own immediate work? Sir John Davies, on Ireland. If you did know to whom I gave the ring, and how unwillingly I left the ring, you would abate the strength of your displeasure.
William Shakespeare, The Merchant of Venice. Here we see the hopes of great benefit and light from expositors and commentators are, in a great part, abetted. And those who have most need of your help can receive but little from them, and can have very little assurance of reaching the apostles' sense by what they find in them.
John Locke's An Essay on St. Paul's Epistles. 2.
To deject or depress the mind.
This iron world, the same he, weeping, says,
brings down the stoutest hearts to lowest state.
For misery doth bravest minds abate. Edmund Spenser, Hubbard's Tale.
Have they power still to banish your defenders, till at length
your ignorance deliver you,
as most abetted captives, to some nation
that won you without blows.
William Shakespeare, Coriolanus. Time, that changes all, yet changes us, in vain.
The body, not the mind, nor can control
the immortal vigor, or abate the soul.
John Dryden's Aeneid. 3. In commerce, to let down the price, in selling.
Sometimes to beat down the price, in buying.
To abate. Verb neuter. To grow less. As, his passion abates. The storm abates.
It is used, sometimes with the particle of, before the thing lessened. Our physicians have observed, that, in process of time, some diseases have abated of their virulence,
and have, in a manner, worn out their malignity, so as to be no longer mortal.
John Dryden's The Hind and the Panther.
To abate. In common law. It is in law used both actively and neutrally. As, to abate a castle, to beat it down. To abate a writ is, by some exception, to defeat or overthrow it. A stranger abateth. That is, entereth upon a house or land, void by the death of him that last possessed it, before the heir take his possession, and so keepeth him out. Wherefore, as he that putteth out him in possession is said to disseize, so he that steppeth in between the former possessor and his heir is said to abate. In the neuter signification thus: the writ of demandment shall abate. That is, shall be disabled, frustrated, or overthrown. The appeal abateth by Coven.
That is, that the accusation is defeated by deceit.
John Cowell. To abate. In horsemanship.
A horse is said to abate, or take down his curvets. When working upon curvets, he puts his two hind legs to the ground both at once, and observes the same exactness in all the times.
Dictionary. Abatement. Noun substantive. Abatement, French. 1. The act of abating, or lessening.
The law of works, then, in short, is that law which requires perfect obedience, without remission or abatement.
So that, by that law, a man cannot be just or justified without an exact performance of every tittle. John Locke. 2. The state of being abetted. Coffee has, in common with all nuts,
an oil strongly combined and entangled with earthy particles. The most noxious part of oil exhales in roasting to the abatement of near
1/4 of its weight. John Arbuthnot, on Aliments. 3. The sum or quantity taken away by the act of abating.
Xenophon tells us that the city contained about 10,000 sandhouses,
and allowing one man to every house, who could have any share in the government. The rest, consisting of women, children, and servants, and making other obvious abatements, these tyrants,
if they had been careful to adhere together, might have been a majority even of the people collective.
Swift on the contests in Athens and Rome. 4.
The cause of abating, extenuation. As our advantages towards practicing and promoting piety and virtue were greater than those of other men,
So, will our excuse be less if we neglect to make use of them? We cannot plead, in abatement of our guilt, that we were ignorant of our duty, under the prepossession of ill habits,
and the bias of a wrong education.
Francis Atterbury, Sermons. Next page begins with abatement, in law. Original source text is in the public domain. This audio recording, including AI-assisted narration, restoration, and editorial structure is copyrighted. 2026, by News of Folios. All rights reserved. To abandon. To abandon. To abandon. To abandon over. To abandon over. To abandon over. Abandoned. 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 Abandoning. 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 Abandonment. 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 Abolition. 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 Abarcy. 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 To obear. To obear. To obear. Abarticulation. 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 To abase. To abase. To abase. Abased. 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 Abasement. 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 To abash. To abash. To abash. To abate. To abate. To abate. Abatement. Abatement. Abatement.